Somewhere deep in the southern provinces of China, behind rows of nondescript warehouse walls, lies one of the world's most surprising farming industries. Not cattle, not poultry, but snakes, thousands of them. They hiss and coil under heat lamps, bred not for venom or fear, but for fashion, food, and medicine. Every year, millions of snake skins are harvested, processed, and transformed into luxury handbags, belts, boots, and even traditional healing tonics. It's a world that few outsiders ever see, a world where ancient traditions meet modern machinery, where the cold gleam of stainless steel processing lines meets the glistening scales of one of nature's most feared creatures. Today, we're going inside China's booming snake farming industry to uncover how these reptiles are raised, skinned, and shipped around the globe, and to ask the question, how sustainable or ethical is a business built on snakes? This is not a story of horror, but of complexity, a story about culture, commerce, and the surprising intersection of tradition and technology. Welcome to the world of snake farming in China. To understand how snake farming became a thriving industry in China, we have to rewind far back to a time when snakes were not commodities, but symbols. In traditional Chinese culture, snakes have long held a dual identity. They were feared for their venom, yet revered for their healing power. Ancient texts from the Han Dynasty, over 2,000 years ago, described snake oil and serpent meat as cures for joint pain, circulation issues, and even chronic fatigue. For centuries, wild snakes were hunted and sold in local medicine markets. Their bile was mixed into tonics. Their skins were dried and used in ornamental crafts. Their flesh was cooked in soups, often believed to bring vitality and strength. But as China's population and economy grew, the demand for snakes skyrocketed, and wild populations began to disappear. In the 1980s, authorities began regulating wildlife trade, encouraging controlled breeding to protect natural ecosystems. And so, snake farming was born. At first, it was small-scale, rural families keeping a few cobras or rat snakes in wooden crates behind their homes. But over time, it evolved into something much larger. By the early 2000s, snake farms began appearing across Guangdong, Guangxi, and Zhejiang provinces, places where warm, humid climates made reptile breeding possible year-round. Today, China is home to thousands of registered snake farms, some raising over 100,000 snakes annually. They supply everything from the luxury fashion industry to the pharmaceutical sector and exotic food markets. And yet, behind the growing numbers, there's still an old connection, an echo of ancient reverence that continues to shape how these animals are perceived. Snake farming in China isn't just business. It's culture. It's survival. It's tradition meeting demand in a modern economy that never stops evolving. At first glance, a snake farm might look like any other agricultural facility, rows of concrete enclosures, feeding areas, temperature controls. But step closer and the soundscape changes. The air hums with a faint, unsettling rhythm, the rustle of scales against concrete, the whisper of hundreds of serpents shifting in the dark. Most farms specialize in native species, rat snakes, cobras, pythons, and vipers. Each is bred for a specific purpose, some for their skin, others for meat or medicinal extraction. Snakes are notoriously difficult animals to raise. They require stable humidity, precise temperature, and minimal stress. Farmers replicate the natural conditions of the jungle, using heat lamps, misting systems, and controlled ventilation to keep the reptiles comfortable and active. Feeding time is perhaps the most delicate moment. Workers move swiftly, tossing live or thawed rodents into the cages. A single snake can go weeks without eating, but for breeding, nutrition, and timing are everything. Once they reach the right size, the snakes are carefully sorted, some kept as breeders, others prepared for processing. It's a process that's part science, part instinct, and deeply rooted in efficiency. At large facilities, processing areas resemble modern food plants. Snakes are humanely euthanized, their skins removed and stretched to dry in long, glistening rows. Each scale catches the light, green, gold, and silver hues shimmering like silk. The flesh doesn't go to waste. It's chilled and shipped to restaurants or traditional medicine suppliers, where it's turned into soups, jerky, or capsules. Even the venom, when extracted, can be sold for pharmaceutical research worth thousands of dollars per gram. From head to tail, every part of the snake finds a purpose. And while this may sound unsettling to some, for many farmers, it's simply livelihood, no different from raising cattle or chickens, just quieter, colder, and far more mysterious. In these farms, the snake is not a symbol of danger. It's a symbol of survival. You might imagine snake farming as something ancient, dark rooms, bamboo cages, and little technology. But the truth is, that image is long outdated. Modern snake farming in China has become a surprisingly high-tech industry. It's not just about raising snakes, it's about controlling life itself, down to the smallest detail. Take temperature, for example. Most species thrive between 28 and 32 degrees Celsius, a few degrees off, and an entire batch can stop eating or breeding. To prevent that, farmers now use automated climate systems, sensors that monitor humidity and temperature 24/7, adjusting fans and heaters automatically. There's also the question of breeding genetics. Snake reproduction is notoriously complex. Not all species breed readily in captivity. Scientists from agricultural universities and wildlife institutes have spent years developing improved hatchery techniques, from controlled incubation of eggs to monitoring embryo development through infrared imaging. Even the feeding process is changing. Instead of relying on live prey, many farms now use nutrient-based feed formulations, reducing ethical concerns and disease risks. In some facilities, workers carry tablets that track every snake's growth, feeding schedule, and health status. Each reptile is logged in a digital record, turning what was once a mysterious craft into a data-driven agricultural system. And then there's processing, an area that's seen remarkable modernization. Skinning, stretching, and drying are now done in sanitary, semi-automated rooms, with stainless steel conveyors and temperature-controlled drying tunnels to maintain consistent quality for export. These innovations haven't just improved efficiency, they've helped snake farms meet international trade standards, especially for the luxury fashion industry, which demands traceability and humane sourcing. Technology in this world isn't just about speed, it's about control. Control over an animal that, for most of human history, refused to be tamed. Snake farming may sound like a niche business, but its environmental impact runs deep, both good and bad. On one hand, farming snakes reduces hunting pressure on wild populations, many of which were once trapped in the millions for their skins. Species like the Chinese cobra and the king rat snake have benefited from captive breeding programs that keep wild populations more stable. Farmers often describe themselves as conservation partners, not exploiters. By breeding snakes in controlled environments, they argue, they help protect biodiversity and still meet global demand. But the truth is more complicated. Raising snakes in large numbers requires careful management. If waste, food scraps, or deceased animals aren't handled properly, local ecosystems can suffer contamination. And because snakes are escape artists, even a few slipping out of farms can threaten native wildlife if non-local species start breeding outside their natural range. Then there's the moral question. Are snakes truly suited for life in captivity? Reptile behavior is complex, and scientists still debate how much stress captive conditions cause. Still, compared to traditional livestock farming, snake farming has an unusually low environmental footprint. Snakes require minimal space, produce little methane, and eat far less food than mammals of similar body mass. They're cold-blooded, meaning they use energy more efficiently. Some experts even suggest that snake meat could be one of the most sustainable protein sources of the future, if managed responsibly. In rural China, many farmers use snake farming as part of a circular system. Snake waste becomes fertilizer, and leftover feed helps raise insects or fish. It's an ecosystem within an ecosystem, surprisingly efficient, surprisingly quiet. But sustainability isn't just about the environment, it's about balance. Balancing tradition and ethics, commerce and conservation, demand and dignity. And in the heart of China's countryside, that balance is constantly being tested, one scale at a time. In modern China, snake farming has become more than an industry. It's a livelihood for thousands of families. In rural provinces where arable land is scarce and incomes are low, snakes offer an unusual opportunity. They require less feed than pigs or chickens, and their byproducts, meat, skins, and venom, fetch far higher prices. A single well-managed farm can generate tens of thousands of dollars a year, supplying markets across Asia. Luxury brands buy the skins, restaurants and apothecaries buy the meat, pharmaceutical labs buy the venom, and in between these buyers is a whole network of processors, exporters, and local traders, each playing a role in an economy built on scales and precision. But economics is only half the story. Snake farming farming is also deeply woven into China's cultural identity and beliefs. In traditional Chinese medicine, snakes are symbols of transformation, creatures that shed their skin and emerge renewed. Their oils and powders are believed to invigorate the blood, ease pain, and restore balance in the body. Even today, in herbal pharmacies and urban clinics, snake-based products remain part of the healing landscape. At restaurants, snake meat is still seen as a delicacy, often served in winter hot pots or herbal soups meant to warm the body's energy. It's not about novelty or danger. It's about tradition, about a connection to nature's raw vitality. And for the farmers who raise them, snakes are not monsters. They are valuable livestock, raised with respect and skill, a creature that demands both caution and care. In many rural communities, the rise of snake farming has lifted families out of poverty, turned small towns into trade hubs, and created a rare example of wildlife utilization that supports both people and, to some extent, conservation. It's an economy built not just on profit, but on heritage, on a quiet understanding between humans and one of the most misunderstood animals on Earth. As global demand for exotic products faces new scrutiny, the future of snake farming in China hangs in a delicate balance. In recent years, stricter wildlife protection laws have changed how farms operate. Licensing, traceability, and biosecurity are now mandatory, part of a national effort to ensure that only captive-bred snakes enter the market. The COVID-19 pandemic also reshaped public perception. With wildlife trade under heavy regulation, many snake farms temporarily shut down or shifted focus from food markets to medical research and pharmaceutical extraction. Now, researchers are exploring new uses for snake products, from venom-based cancer treatments to biodegradable collagen derived from snake skin. These scientific frontiers could transform what was once a niche, controversial trade into a legitimate biotech industry. At the same time, global luxury brands are facing pressure to adopt ethical sourcing standards. Some have banned wild reptile skins entirely, while others work directly with certified farms to ensure humane practices. This push toward transparency could redefine the industry, rewarding those who treat their animals responsibly and phasing out those who don't. For China's snake farmers, the path forward is uncertain but full of potential. Technology, regulation, and changing consumer values will all decide whether this ancient practice continues to evolve or fades into history. Perhaps that's the most fascinating part of all, because snake farming isn't just about snakes, it's about adaptation, about how humans, time and again, learn to coexist with the creatures that once terrified them. And as we move into an era of sustainability and ethics, the question remains: can snake farming become a model for balance between commerce, culture, and compassion? Or will it always remain one of the world's most misunderstood trades? Only time and the next generation of farmers will tell. In the end, the story of snake farming in China is not one of fear, but of transformation. From ancient medicine markets to modern laboratories, from wild forests to climate-controlled farms, the snake has shed its old skin again and again, evolving alongside the people who depend on it. It's a reminder that nature is not simply beautiful or terrifying, it's both. And sometimes our relationship with it is equally complex. When we see a luxury handbag or a medicinal tonic, it's easy to forget the journey behind it. The farmers who wake before dawn to feed serpents in the dark, the scientists trying to make ancient practices sustainable, the quiet balance between necessity and morality. Snake farming, like so much of modern agriculture, stands at a crossroads between the old world and the new, between survival and conscience, between what we want and what the earth can sustain. Maybe the question isn't whether it's right or wrong, but whether we can do it better, with care, with transparency, with respect for the creatures that make it possible. Because in the shimmering patterns of a snake's skin, there's more than just value. There's a reflection of of our ingenuity, our hunger, our contradictions. And perhaps, somewhere in that reflection, lies the wisdom we've been shedding and regrowing since the beginning of time. Thank you for watching. If you found this story thought-provoking, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to join us for more deep dives into the hidden worlds of nature, farming, and sustainability. Your thoughts matter. Tell us in the comments. Do you believe industries like snake farming can truly be sustainable? Until next time, stay curious.